Well, it is a legacy of tragedy, a shameful part of our collective history, one that we were enlightened to through the discoveries of more than 1,000 unmarked graves at the sites of 3 former Indian residential schools up in Canada.
And today is International Orange Shirt Day, a day to set aside to remember the children and open a discussion about the Indigenous boarding schools. 2 on Your Side's Pete Gallivan shares the first of a 3-part series called Tragic Legacy, the unknown story of the Indian residential school program.
This 1929 film shows Native children at a school in Arizona singing a nursery song. It was a song originally written about counting dead Indians.
Our communities are still mourning.
Many in Native communities across North America say the discoveries are just the tip of the iceberg, especially now that U.S. Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, herself a Native American, has opened an investigation into the U.S. schools.
I come from ancestors who endured the horrors of Indian boarding school assimilation policies carried out by the same department that I now lead.
There were 367 boarding schools in 29 states, the first of which was in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, opened in 1879 by Brigadier General Richard Pratt.
Army officer Richard Pratt coined the phrase, "Kill the Indian, save the man."
More than 160,000 Indigenous children were forcibly taken from their homes and placed in the schools across Canada. In the United States, the exact numbers are not known, but in 1925, there were nearly 61,000 children in boarding schools. The children were subjected to a variety of physical and psychological abuse. In 1990, the special advisor to the Canadian Minister of National Health and Welfare on child sexual abuse stated that in some schools, 100% of children were sexually abused. Dean SENECA teaches a course in Indigenous health disparities at UB.
We've always known this. We've always known that there are these atrocities outside and surrounding these boarding schools.
SENECA adds that many of the societal problems, such as levels of alcoholism, domestic violence, and suicide, well above the general population, are a direct result of generational trauma resulting from the schools. Schools including one right here in western New York, the Thomas Indian School on the Cattaraugus territory of the Seneca Nation.
This is a building we walked into.
Businessman J.C. SENECA showed me what remains of the school, which closed in 1958. He recalled a time as a little boy walking through this building with his father, a Thomas school survivor.
And yeah, just the echo and the sound of my dad's crutch as he walked, was pretty an eerie feeling.
It has been renovated into the Peacekeepers Court building, and SENECA says it's important to keep it as a reminder because the echoes of the past abuse continue to resonate. Thomas School survivor ELLIOT TALLCHIEF recalls that they were not even allowed to speak their native language.
Using our language, they would line us up and take us to the shower. They would wash our mouth out with soap.
CARSON Waterman says as a small child, he and another boy got caught sneaking out of their dormitory building to see his older brother.
He told us we had to get in the shower, we had to take our clothes off. We were wearing shorts, it's summertime, shorts and t-shirts. And he beat us with a rubber hose. We were 5 years old. What kind of society beats their children with rubber hoses when they're that young?
And Alita Bowen, a Navajo, says among her most vivid memories of her school out west was the sight of piles and piles of hair left behind when new students had their traditional long hair sheared off.
And all those yarn were laying all over, and then on this other side is all the Navajo boys' hair.
The purpose or the policy was to assimilate us.
Ripping the culture away from Native people. I mean, that was the whole goal.
Dean SENECA says it's high time that the Canadian, United States governments, New York State, and the Catholic Church acknowledge what happened at these schools because all played a part in creating the residential school system.
Let's call these boarding schools what they really are. You know, these schools were, basically institutions for ethnic cleansing.
Shocking to hear what went on.
Yeah, it really is. And tomorrow, Pete is going to discuss the lasting impacts of the residential school program and what is called intergenerational trauma.
And you can tune in on Saturday night at 8 for Pete's half-hour-long Two on Your Side investigation. Again, it's called Tragic Legacy: The Unknown Stories of the Indian Residential School Program.